nanny. This is why they don't value life. Thieves are stealing identities and filing fraudulent tax returns to get large refunds that are not owed to them. The Secret Service, well, you know all about the Secret Service and all their scandals. Everything is going down in flames, and we've got to get to a fundamental philosophy of valuing life and creation if we're going to save this. So stay with us. A lot straight ahead on The Alex Jones Show. We have entered the second hour of truth-telling here at InfoWars at the studios in Austin, Texas. Mike Adams filling in here for Alex, who I hope is listening today. He hasn't texted me anything yet, so he must be happy with the show. Now, they got a couple more news items to cover here in this short segment. But first, I want to start off with this one. Check this out. NASA has released some new pictures of Mars, and Fox News is reporting this. Big picture on Mars. NASA rover snaps stunning view of red planet. You know what's fascinating? I don't know if you saw these pictures. They were all over the internet yesterday. I took a look at them. Something's different about these pictures. Did you notice it? They have stopped doing the red shifting photoshopping of the Martian sky and the Martian landscape. Now, those of you who know what I'm talking about, you're probably laughing right now because you're like, yeah, that's exactly right. They stopped making it look red. The new pictures don't show a red sky. They show a landscape that looks a lot like Wyoming. I mean, seriously, if you look at the pictures of Mars from the 1970s and the 1980s and the 1990s, they were all essentially photoshopped or red shifted by NASA before they released them. They were all shown to be really, really red, like it's a really red sky and it's really red soil. Okay, here we go. Some pictures coming up right now for those watching on Prisonplanet.tv. The atmosphere in these pictures, it's kind of a purplish gray. The mountains in the distance look like, you know, the Smoky Mountains in the U.S. almost. This is a change. It's a powerful change. No one in the press is talking about this. And for those of you who have looked at the history of NASA, you know that NASA has been very, very reluctant to really tell the truth about, you know, signs of bacterial life on Mars and things like that, evidence of water on Mars or water on the moon, all these kinds of things. So this now, with these pictures coming out, this is a shift. They've taken away the red sky and the red soil. Now they're showing it as a regular landscape that could be from any other planet. It could be from planet Earth. And what I think about this part is just conjecture, but I think that they are prepping the public to announce some kind of discovery of life on Mars. I mean, microbial life. I'm not talking about little green men running around. I'm talking about microbial life, proof of it, but they're trying to prep people for it, so they're releasing these photos of a normal-looking atmosphere on Mars. All right, I want to give a shout-out to WorldNet Daily and Jerome Corsi, and WND.com has put out another story about Obama's missing year at Columbia now being found. This is a great article. I'm not going to go into all the details here, but I just want to say WorldNet Daily and Joseph Farah have done some really amazing reporting on even the birth certificate. Was that WorldNet Daily or was that Newsmax? Anyway, I think that's WorldNet Daily on the birth certificate. And Jerome Corsi, of course, has done amazing research. But if you look at the Social Security number and the birth certificate issues, it's WND, I'm sure. Those are powerful pieces of investigative journalism. Just want to give a shout out to anybody out there who's investigating the truth and actually backing it up with evidence. You know, there's a lot of people on the internet that are just saying whatever, you know, all kinds of weird theories and weird conspiracies and weird attacks on people, but they don't back it up with anything. They don't have any evidence. They don't have any documents, nothing. What I try to do, and I know what Kurt Nimmo does here and Paul Watson and people like Corsi here and many others, we provide the evidence. We provide the documents. So people out there, if you read something on the internet, don't be just sucked in by somebody's words. Anybody can spout words, and there are a lot of really great liars out there, including, you know, in Washington, D.C., very, very effective liars. I mean, just look back at some past presidents and current president, and you have some really good liars. Look for the evidence. What is documented? What can be proven? And we're going to have a lot of evidence coming up right now after this coming break with Jon Rappoport about Merck and the drug manufacturers, vaccine companies, and some of the ways that they are trying to hoodwink us all and our governments at the same time. All that straight ahead on the Alex Jones Show. Stay with us. All right, welcome back to the second hour of the Alex Jones Show. This is Monday, July 9th, 2012. Mike Adams, the Health Ranger, sitting in for Alex today. Thank you for continuing with us here. We've got a very powerful segment coming up here right now. Jon Rappoport from NoMoreFakeNews.com joins us, but let me give a quick introduction of what we are talking about. We've got GlaxoSmithKline pleading guilty to criminal fraud and now paying a $3 billion fine. Yeah, with a B, $3 billion fine to settle the criminal and civil charges. We've got two whistleblowers from Merck, two virologists who went public with a False Claims Act claiming that Merck had spiked the results of falsified test data to fabricate a vaccine efficacy rate of 95% in order to keep selling it to the United States government. We've got evidence coming out, a lawsuit also filed against Merck that says that they engaged in a decade-long scheme to falsify and misrepresent the true efficacy of its vaccine, that it tried to conceal the evidence, that it threatened its virologists with going to jail if they spoke out and went to the FDA. The allegations here are just absolutely huge. And then we've got Pfizer being sued by retailers over its anti-competitive scheme. They say that the company has conspired to keep generic versions of cholesterol drugs off the market so that Pfizer can keep selling its nearly $10 billion a year worth of Lipitor without any competition. So all of this is going to be now discussed by none other than Jon Rappoport, one of my favorite guests. He knows his stuff. He joins us now by Skype video. Jon, welcome to the show.
Hi, Mike. Great to be here. Yeah, let's get into the chemical warfare section of the show.
Let's get right into it, man. But let's start with the fact that, number one, you and I and Alex and others who've been talking about this, we are completely vindicated at this point because we've talked about the criminality of Big Pharma, and now here it is. It's a matter of public record now, $3 billion fine for criminal activities that the company has pleaded guilty to.
Yes, it is vindication. And for all those people who have been saying that, we're just a bunch of kooks and we don't know what we're talking about and we don't have the facts and we're just anti something or other, I don't even know what it is, they're wrong and we're right. And that's the way it is. They have been lying. Media have been supporting these drug companies on and on and on and on and on. They don't see the continuing conspiracy of criminal activity on the part of Big Pharma. They don't want to see it, but it's been there for a long time. I've been in touch with mainstream reporters for years, trying to convince them to cover this one aspect or another, and they just shut it out because they know that they won't be able to. They're not allowed to.
Well, they know where their salaries come from. Where media gets its money is largely from the pharmaceutical companies. But look at this, Jon. Even when the False Claims Act came out, that the two whistleblowers from Merck went to the government and said, the government is being defrauded of hundreds of millions of dollars with a false vaccine, a mumps vaccine that doesn't even work at the claimed rate. The government said, we don't want to investigate. They just said, forget it. Let the company keep doing business that way. I mean, the government doesn't even care. We are talking about a deep, deep collusion between government, media, and pharma. What are your thoughts, Jon?
Well, that's what it is, Mike. It's been going on for decades and decades and decades. And they're so far in bed together that they can't get out or separate themselves from each other. Occasionally a scandal erupts, or three of them that we're looking at here, and so they pay a fine. But nobody goes to jail. Nobody's really punished. And let me indicate, as far as GlaxoSmithKline is concerned, they have to pay $3 billion now for criminal actions related to three of their drugs, Paxil, Wellbutrin, and Avandia, hiding the dangers of Avandia and inducing doctors to prescribe Paxil and Wellbutrin for what's called off-label uses. In other words, uses where it could be even more dangerous than where it was before, say for children.
Yeah.
Well, during the period about which this fine covers, the $3 billion, those three drugs made GlaxoSmithKline $27.9 billion.
So $3 billion is just a slap on the wrist. Huh?
You know, and they had already set aside the money to pay the government. Right. They knew this could come down. And so they sat in their corporate boardroom and they said, okay, well, how much could this cost us? I mean, I don't know, $2 billion, $3 billion. All right, let's set it aside so we can pay because, you know, we're making $27 billion off the three drugs. What do we care? This is the thinking. And the government goes along with this because the government knows that the $3 billion doesn't even begin to make a dent in Glaxo.
Well, it's like Alex uses this story of a guy robbing a bank and walks away right out of the bank with $1 million in cash, and the police show up. And, we caught you robbing the bank. Now pay us $10,000 and you can go free. So the robber takes out 10 grand, hands it to the police, and walks away with $990,000. Man, that's a pretty good day, and that's what Big Pharma does every day.
That's right. That's what they do every day. The government goes along with it. And as you and I have discussed before, you know, the public starts to look at this and they say, wait a minute, is somebody going to be put on trial? Is somebody actually from these companies going to go to jail? Go to jail for 10 years, 15, 20 years? Because this is endangering the public. I mean, these are dangerous drugs and vaccines that we're talking about here. And when these companies lie about the safety of them and the government just looks the other way, somebody's guilty here of a serious crime, but yet no one is ever prosecuted for a criminal offense.
You nailed it. You nailed it.
Justice does nothing.
Let me go over some of what GlaxoSmithKline pled guilty to here. Bribing doctors. Bribery, outright bribery of doctors, gave them luxury vacations and lucrative paid speaking gigs, even concert tickets to Madonna concerts apparently was part of was in the documents. It turns out also, this came out, the celebrity doctor, Dr. Drew, had received $275,000 from Glaxo to help promote their antidepressant drugs, apparently. That's being reported. I think that was in the Wall Street Journal. Glaxo fabricated drug safety data, lied to the FDA, defrauded Medicare and Medicaid out of billions of dollars, deceived regulators about the effectiveness of its drugs. It relied on these deceptive practices to earn billions of dollars while selling potentially dangerous drugs to unsuspecting consumers and medical patients. This is just some of what Glaxo is guilty of. And the Wall Street Journal reports, oh yeah, that's about Dr. Drew. $275,000 was billed to Glaxo for, quote, services for Wellbutrin. Services. And then he went on to promote that drug in speaking engagements and I believe on his radio show. Yeah, exactly. But apparently, according to the Wall Street Journal, he did not disclose that to his listening audience. So a lot of people getting caught up in this right now, taking money from a company that has now pleaded guilty to criminal behavior.
That's right. That's quite a list of charges that Glaxo has been found guilty of. And when we say fabricating drug safety, what that means is the company is saying, we've done studies on these drugs. They're safe, like Avandia, you know, which was an extremely dangerous drug. Oh, it's safe, no problem. And here are the studies that back it up. So what does that mean? That means that they were lying in the studies. They cooked the data. They fabricated results. They buried results that would be negative to the so-called safety of the drug.
Right.
They cheated in every possible way. And these studies were published in major medical journals so that doctors could read them and say, well, now we know that these drugs are good and safe, and so we can prescribe them.
But none of those studies are going to be retracted, though, John, because the